Omar is asking, what's the reasonable percentage of SDE should buyer get as compensation monthly? Again, there's no black or white answer here. Depends on the business, depends on your goals. So for example, I'm seeing a lot, especially young entrepreneurs who are starting businesses or buying businesses, they try to take every dollar out of the business and try to go out there and buy, I don't know, nice cars and nice watches and random bullshit like that. Well, guess what? You can keep the same money in the business, pay less on taxes, and just grow the business or reinvest it back or buy more businesses. So what's a reasonable percentage? I mean, you are the decision maker. When you are the owner, you make a decision of how much money you want to take out of the business. In theory, you can take everything and bankrupt within a month as well, right? That's a possibility as well. No one will stop you unless you have specific clauses and whatnot with investors or whatever. But assuming you are the 1% sole owner of the business, then there are no rules. But then over time, you'll find out that, and again, I'm not here to give tax or legal advice and whatnot, but you'll find out that there are ways for you to take money out of the business where you pay less money on tax, and there are for taxes, and there are ways where you take money out of the business and pay more money on taxes. And over time, as you pay more money to the government, you're like, okay, what makes sense here? Does it make sense to take so much money out of the business and pay so much percentage of taxes to it? To what? To buy a watch, to buy a car, to buy whatever it is that you're looking to buy? Or maybe it's reasonable to think long term and keep the money in the business and reinvest it and hire more people or buy more businesses and invest in more assets, right? Rich dad, poor dad kind of attitude. Go and read that if you didn't yet, right? It's I think all entrepreneurs should read that book at some point if you didn't. But understanding what's the difference between an asset and liability, right? Are you investing and putting money into assets, or are you putting money into liabilities and things that go down in value and are not producing to you increase or cash flow? So yeah, my answer is take whatever percent you want. Just be smart. What else, guys?
And whenever you actually set up a board and you give them equity, how much of the equity do you actually give them?
For a board, you're asking?
Yes.
So I'll take a step back. First of all, ask yourself, when do you need a board and why do you need a board, right? Then if you actually need a board and you think a board will help you, then again, it's on you on whatever you want to give them. Like, it depends on how active they are. Are they out there actually doing the work, or they're just putting their beautiful face and name on your website? That will determine a lot. Like, if I'll bring Elon Musk to my board, well, guess what? That guy deserves more equity. And pretty much, I mean, I'm thinking out loud with you guys, but what I'm trying to say is that if the person, the more credible he is and the more active he is currently in running something, the more equity he'll demand, and the most likely that he won't really do anything with you. Why? Because he's busy doing other stuff. Like for me right now, if you'll tell me, hey, I'm getting weekly messages from people that are going through Penny and stuff, and like, Moran, would you like to be on my board? And I'm like, no, dude, I'm active in the world of doing deals. Why would I want to be on your board for 1%, 5%, 10% when you don't know shit? And I'm not saying you specifically, I'm saying about the messages I'm getting. People don't know shit about acquisitions or business, and they're like looking for board members to save their life and do the work for them. But no one in his right mind who's actually active doing deals will go and work for someone else who knows nothing and take 1% equity. And if you'll find those people, I mean, here's what I found out. Most people are starting by building a board. They end up with people who either don't do anything and they just provide their name and their track record, right? So you have a nice name on your website, or they'll just be like, dude, like you don't do anything. Why do we need you? Like, what are you bringing to the table? And the problem is that most people, they think they need a board is because they don't know anything. And the reason we created an incubator and accelerator is to help people actually learn the process of doing deals and understanding how to find deals, how to analyze deals, how to raise capital, how to run businesses. Because without it, I mean, just knowing a little bit about, hey, I want to buy a business, now the board will save me. It's not helpful. And I'm sorry if I'm very passionate about it, but I've just seen so many horror stories around that it's just sad. Like people spending months of their lives building a board and then either do nothing to help them, or just the board doesn't need them. Why? Because that person knows nothing about how to find board members on LinkedIn. That's it. I mean, you think that's a great business skill to help you do a roll-up? It's nice, but I can hire a VA from the Philippines that knows how to do the same for a few $100 a month. So I think instead of asking how much percentage I need to bring a board, you need to ask yourself, how can I become a person so people want to be on my company, in my company, and beg to be on my company as part of an equity shareholder? Why? Because I'm worthy of them, because I'm building something meaningful here that is going to be freaking tremendous. And those people will need to beg for me to give them a percent in my deal. Because that percent, 1% can be worth millions of dollars in 1, 3, 5, 10 years from now.
Could you clarify how people beg for you, but then board members, they probably won't want to work with you because you don't know anything?
So you want clarity on the kind of like how I look at it. Okay, so
Yeah.
when I'm saying a board member won't do anything for you is, again, I'm when I'm talking about it, I'm talking about, I'm having in mind the people that are reaching out to me weekly on LinkedIn and telling me, Moran, how's it going? I watch your stuff. I'd love you to join my board. I want you to be my chairman or be whatever, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. Where are you at? I'm asking them, where are you at in the process? And they're like, yeah, I'm just picked my sector and now I'm building a board. I'm like, cool. Do you know anything else? They're like, no, right? They don't know shit. So for me to join them, like they'll need to beg, that won't be enough. So that's the reason I created a group like the Business Buying Scouts for people to send me deals. Otherwise, I'm not going to work for someone else for 1%. Why? Why would I do that? I don't mind. That's why I'm charging for incubator and accelerator, because I know, okay, I'm sharing my information that I learned over the years. And I know that some people will just take it and do whatever they want with it, do deals. But I know that some people will want to bring deals and do it with me, right? But then it's different. You're coming, when you're going through my programs, we're speaking at the same level. You see what I mean? It's kind of like, the reason I created all of that is because I want to have people that I can talk to at the same level, that we can collaborate on things together, that I can bring more of my experience, I can bring capital, I can bring, operational support. And then even if you don't necessarily know much, you at least went through the process, you learned everything. And now, even if you'll have a board, you can handle the board.
So is your idea to maybe bring on people that would get equity, but also bring capital to the table?
For me personally, right now, I don't need the board. When I'm working with clients, I teach them enough so they don't need a board. So they know everything themselves. So they know how to find the deal. They know how to analyze the deal. They know how to make offers. The only thing they need is a legal firm to help them with due diligence, or a financial guy to help them with due diligence. But they don't need a board to give away equity. I can just pay the lawyer, especially if it's a small deal. I can pay a lawyer $5,000 to $10,000 for due diligence. Why do I need to give him 5-10% of the equity? If you really believe that you're going to build a business doing $10, $100 million, $1 billion, then why would I give him 5-10% equity for a lawyer that I can pay $5,000? Again, obviously depends on the size of the deal, right? But why? There's no logical sense here. So for me, I don't need a board. I will have a team that I pay, and maybe I give them bonuses. And so right now I don't give equity, but it doesn't mean that I won't give bonuses. It doesn't mean that I won't give equity in the future. If someone is a superstar, then maybe, like, look, the best teachers for that, I think, are the fast growing tech companies in Silicon Valley. They know how to grow companies fast, right? They go out there, some of them raise 5-10 million seed rounds before they even have a product, right? If you look at their first few employees, that's kind of like the board people out there are looking to build. Well, look at Silicon Valley. They're giving, a few points, like less than 1% for their few team members, maybe 1%, 2% if like it's a superstar. So let's say I want to build the next social media company. I bring the CTO of Facebook, he might get 2 or 3%. But if it's a random guy that retired 50 years ago and knows nothing about social media right now, why would he get anything? He might get a small percent just for his name and track record and whatnot. But guess what? This guy is not going to do the work for you. You know more about like social media than him. And that's what I see people trying to do in this world of acquisitions. They try to find someone 80 years old to be on their board. The guys, you don't want to freaking do the deals for you and analyze deals for you. You just want to be there to chill out and maybe have a call with you once a week. He's not going to do the deals for you. He's not going to talk to banks for you. You need to be the person who's talking to banks and investors and pitching your deal and eventually operating the business or whatnot.
I have 2 questions on that. Does the track record, like if you get someone that was like a CEO of a big roll-up company, a few $100 million, maybe $1 billion company, does that help with your track record to get money? And then my thought is it could also help if you go to the seller and you say you buy, I don't know, 60, 70, 80% of the company, so they retain some equity, then that's a value proposition to the seller, because you're bringing on maybe a team of people that have done this before. So then they're like, oh, I'll join this group, and that makes sense. That seems like a good deal. And then my 40% or whatever it is will be worth more.
Okay, so there's 2 questions there, right? So first of all, with the first one, will that help bringing someone with track record and experience? Well, the answer is a lot of time, yes. The question is now let's go to the nuances, right? Obviously, doing things with someone with experience can always be helpful because you can learn personally a lot as well. Now, Is it helpful when you position yourself to business owner? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. What I've seen a lot of times that when you come up and say, hey, we've been involved in, and I see that right now when I position myself as I'm the founder of acquisitions.com, people immediately, okay, this guy have a lot of money. So guess what? You think it's going to be helpful in negotiation? No, it's not, right? Because they think they're going to get fucking premium dollars and premium terms. So not necessarily amazing. Is it helpful, like you said, of selling the long-term vision, retaining equity? 100%, right? Because they'll have more confidence in you that you can actually execute on it. Can you achieve it without it? Yeah, probably also yes. So you got the ups and downs of both sides.
That makes sense. So if for someone like me, say if I'm looking at the rehab industry and I don't know anything about it, what would you do in my position to get people that know something about it? Because I buy one, I don't know what I'm doing. You
need an operator, right? If you don't want to operate. So there's a few ways to look at it. One of them is you can buy the business, have a transition period with the seller and learn the process that way, learn the business that way. I believe that most businesses are rocket science, especially small businesses. You just need enough time with the business owner. And if you're willing to learn, then you can learn it. So that's my first way of looking at it. The other way is, okay, if you don't want to run and operate it yourself, then yeah, you should find an operator, someone ideally with experience. The best way to find them is looking for other similar businesses and reaching out to them. And that can be one of your financiers as well. You can go to a competitor and tell them, hey, I'm looking to buy this business. I'm looking for a CEO. Would you like to co-invest with me? I'll sell you 20% of the business for X dollars and I'll let you be the CEO. And now you find yourself capital and you find yourself a CEO.
That makes sense.
I mean, 100%, ideally do it, kind of like at the same time. So after you buy the business, you don't end up with no one running it. But at the same time, you can be that person to run it initially, or to at least learn to run it. Or ideally, you have a transition period with the seller that will run it in the beginning.
That's really helpful. Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries.
Moran, in those types of situations, how do you like a key employee? I know there's that. You can negotiate a transition period with the seller. How important is it to have a key employee in those positions as well in that company already there?
Super important. So probably part of my due diligence will be to understand, okay, who's responsible for what and how dependent the business is on any one key employee, customer, supplier, right? So not just employees even. And if I feel any sense of fear that that person is looking to leave or about to leave, then I'll do something about it. I might even talk to some of those key employees during due diligence, because now I probably going to have access to those key employees, right? So if you have like C-suite level executives and whatnot, I want to make sure that they are going to be committed to the transition as well. And I want to make sure that they understand that I'm committed to their growth. Because if they're about to leave, it might really hurt. Like especially a small business, when you have just few employees, they're really, really dependent on those few employees. And one person that many times doing a job of 3, 5, 10 people. So if he's leaving, it can be a struggle. So I want to know who's responsible for what. I want to know what happens if that person leaves. And I want to know how well processes are documented in that business. So if and when he leaves, we can easily replace him. Because a good business is not relying on one person, right? There's no redundancy issue. So it means that there are great processes where there's either someone in the business that can take that role, assuming that person is sick or something happens to him. And there's a great process for onboarding someone new. So the best businesses have such a great onboarding process. So even a 5-year-old kid could go into and do that role. That's the ideal scenario. So it's really diving into, again, the nuances and figuring out, okay, who's responsible for what, how dependent that person is. And that can be also something that can be a leverage in negotiation and figuring out, okay, if that person is really dependent, the business is really dependent on him, I want to talk to the owner and have that open conversation and see, hey, what's happening here? What's going to happen if that person leaves? How can you guarantee to me that the person stays? Can I talk to that person? Can I figure out what are his personal, professional, financial goals? And after I get all the full picture, then I make a decision of kind of like what's next. Well, guys, I'll end on that note. I hope you had a good time. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next week. All right, guys.